Good evening. I will call to order the Finance Committee meeting on May 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. We have two items on the agenda this evening. A communication from the mayor, transfer request of $581,007 from free cash to short-term interest. Communication from the mayor, transfer request of $4,187,233 from free cash to healthcare trust fund. Begin with the first item on the agenda, order number 25-100-9425. Communication from the mayor, transfer of $581,007 from free cash to short-term interest to cover the interest payment on a band anticipation note, which is a band. I'll read the letter submitted by the mayor. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval is a transfer in the amount of $581,007 from free cash to the short-term interest account. This transfer is intended to cover the interest payment due on a bond anticipation note, which is a band, issued on May 22nd, 2024. Included with the request is a letter from Comptroller Brian Doheny, which outlines the cost of the band and provides details on the current balance of bond premiums. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my office with any questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Brian. Good evening. If you kind of give an outline, Brian, on, I know you have the expertise on this, to kind of give the Finance Committee a little understanding of this, please.
Sure. So as I was getting the budget ready, going through the bond issuances from last year to this year to move forward, I noticed there was a band that was taken out last year that had an interest payment due of $873,000. So I looked and noticed there was not an account to cover that amount of money. So we did find an account that had around $253,000 that we can use to offset some of it, but we can't use it to offset all of it. So I'm asking for a transfer of free cash from this. And next year you'll see short-term interest in the budget, and it's $325,000 for next year. So the band isn't as costly as this year. Yes. I'm banding less. So we've kind of taken care of it the current year with this transfer and added it to the budget for next year. And I want to thank you for having this meeting so quickly.
Absolutely.
The band is due June 1st, so I appreciate the
You're very welcome.
time.
You're very welcome. Well, you answered my first question, because I was going to ask that, will this be in the FY 2026 budget for the short term? Just a quick question. As an example, say this may have not been caught. We would have been charged default or interest, additional interest payment possibility on this band?
So what would have happened is you always want to pay debt service.
Correct.
So the debt service probably would have gone through, say I wasn't here to catch this.
Yes.
Right. The debt service would have been paid at the end of June when they reported the payments to the city auditor. The auditor said, hey, we don't have an account to balance this. Well, now you can't go to free cash.
Correct.
Cash is gone.
Yes.
So the state's going to look at that you deficit spend your account, and they're not going to like that, and they're probably going to either pull it from free cash or, they'll send you a nasty letter for sure. I'm not sure if you'd have the ability to transfer funds at that point in time or not. That would be another out. We'd look at every avenue, but we're trying to avoid that.
Thank you. Thank you for. So now I'll open that up to the committee.
Just a clarification, though, Brian. I mean, if we got to that point in July, we would have moved what I call, we would have taken actions to take money out of reserve for salaries or something to pay it, and then figured out what to do later on, right? I mean, because we're obviously not going to pay the band notice.
Right.
I mean, that.
My point is, Diane wouldn't have got that notice until she reconciled June, which would have been well into July. If it's beyond the period of time where you can transfer funds, you would not have that option.
No, but I would have taken it out of the fiscal year 26, or whatever the current.
The current budget, oh, yes.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Oh, yeah, no, I know I can't
Yep.
Diane won't let me
Sorry,
touch it.
26, correct. I was still in
Diane won't let me
25.
touch anything in the other
She
fund.
is.
So,
You're correct in 26, Councilor.
Mr. Chair, can I get clarification, though? Are you saying this would have been paid regardless of anything being done by the council, even though there's no money to take it from?
That is correct. It probably would have been paid. You do not want to not pay your debt service. We do bond and ban every year. If you do not pay on your debt service, it will cause problems. It's almost like defaulting on a mortgage. So any creditor coming to now bid on your bonds and stuff would see that you had a default. Your interest rate would be a lot larger than what you'd get as a AAA rating. You might even lose your AAA rating at that point in time, so it could be very costly.
Who would pay it without a line to pay it from?
So they would pay the invoice because they have the invoice and not assigning an account number at that time. It should not be paid that way, but it's possible that it could have been paid that way. Again, not while I'm here, Counselor, but with no one in that office or someone interim in that office, you could have had that problem.
So thankfully, we found it, thanks to Brian, and we're able to pay it, hopefully with the approval of the transfer. So we could go down a long path of like what-ifs, but thankfully, we don't have to.
No, we're at a good spot to be here this evening to take this up. So,
Very thankful for Brian.
Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This interest payment on the ban, they say in the debt service, we have to pay it every single year. It doesn't make sense not to pay it. How did we pay it last year? Out of what line item did we pay it last year and previous years?
So, again, I didn't look at last year's. I've been here a month, and I'm just dealing with the current problems that are in front of you on this. Moving it forward, not sure whether there was a bond premium they could have paid money from last year. I'm not sure if it was in the budget last year. I just know it's not in the FY25 budget, and there is no account for me to go to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much. Honestly, you brought up the question, basically, what would have happened to our bond rating? Obviously, this has to be paid. I think the issues are raised like, it's kind of last minute, but it's still something that needs to be paid, and it must be paid in this fiscal year?
It's paid June 1st. It's due June 1st.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brian, for finding that missing amount due. So just listening to all of the discussion and all of my questions were already answered. I'm going to move to approve the transfer in the amount of $581,007 from free cash to short-term interest account so that the payment can be made on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Motion's been made, and I will second that, to approve the transfer of $581,007 from free cash to short-term interest to cover the interest payment on a bond anticipation note of a band. I would also ask the Finance Committee if they're okay to have a suspension with this. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So there will be an account for next year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? It carries 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next up is order number 25-100-9426. Communication from the mayor, transfer request in the amount of $4,187,233 from free cash to healthcare trust fund to cover a projected deficit. I'll begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval is a transfer in the amount of $4,187,233 from free cash to Health Trust Fund. Included with this request is a letter from the Comptroller Treasurer, Brian Doheny, detailing the reasons behind this request. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my office with any questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you want to give us a little education on this. I know it was It's not something that, that the council, the finance team wanted to hear.
No,
but I'm
nor did I want to send it
glad
down,
we're having
Mr.
this
Chair.
meeting tonight, but if you want to
Yeah, so
listen a little bit.
unfortunately, we will not play the blame game. There's numerous factors that happened with this, and Brian can get into those details for you. Obviously, it's something that we did not want to send down at all, but it's the perfect storm, and here we are today. Again, I'm thankful that Brian caught this a month in, and we're able to have the free cash to pay this off. It's obviously will be reflected in the budget that was sent down to you as well moving forward. So we are in the thick of it. Thankfully, we are being extremely proactive and dealing with the health trust moving forward. It's just something that we need to pay off and build up that health trust. So if you have questions, Brian is here to answer that, and then you'll see us moving forward with the next year's budget as well.
Thank you. I want to also thank President Ossing for educating me, too, on the IAC from back in 2003 that was signed in by Mayor Hunt in 2004. So that always helped for that education. So this has, in a way, happened before. Quick question. To educate me, on one of them, Brian, it says in FY 2024 by losing $1,766,270, losing. Is that, if you could explain by a loss?
Sure. So how the health trust fund works, the premiums that we pay, well, the employees pay, which I am one of, into the trust fund, we're self-insured.
Yes.
So we cover ourselves. So the claims hit that, the revenue hits that. If the claims are higher than revenues, you lost money. So in FY '24, it lost almost $1.8 million.
And that's due to claims and different circumstances?
And that's due to the claims being higher.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that, Brian. I will open that to the Finance Committee. Any other councils that have a question? Council Vital.
I spent 20 years in human resources, and I had to negotiate large benefit packages, not realizing not self-insured programs, but had to manage healthcare plans for up to 11,000 people at one time. I had a benefits manager who checked the statements that came in monthly. Once she was done with making sure everything added up, she gave it to me, and I checked it over really well. At least I thought I did most of the time. Then it went off to my comptroller or my CFO, and they looked over it. So we had 3 sets of eyes. We didn't have like a healthcare advisory council. We just had those 3 sets of eyes, and I never remembered having any major discrepancies. How did this happen over the last 5 years, or over the last 5 years? Let's just say 5 years, with that many eyes. I assume it's a similar process here. How does that happen here?
So again, I wasn't here when this started, but I noticed, well, before I came, let's go to the beginning. Before I came, they said, hey, we want to set the rate, we want you to look at it. So once my name got in front of the council, anticipating that I would get approval, I was having Friday Zoom meetings for 3 in a row. And the first thing I did, again, thanks to the city auditor, Diane, she mentioned, Brian, they want to set rates, take a look at the health trust fund. So, my last interview here, I grabbed the sheets from Diane. So I noticed at the end of FY '23, well, to your point, there's a lot of eyes looking at it, but the main eye is myself and the third-party vendor. Those are the people. It does go in front of the IAC. Other people do look at it. But again, the numbers are large. You got to know what you're looking at.
Right.
So when I looked at it, I noticed in the fourth quarter of '23, claims rose 1.2 million above the prior year. Pretty concerning. To me, anything over $500,000 gets my attention. I then noticed the first quarter of '24 was 1.5 million above the prior year. So in a 6-month span of time, it's $2.7 million above on a claims base of $8 million. So the claims now are almost, $11 million. Bells and whistles should have been going off, but they weren't. I can't tell you why. Again, I wasn't here. I can only tell you what I look at and what I've always looked at with my time here. So then I noticed the next quarter, $500,000 higher. The next quarter's okay. The next $1.5 million higher. So I'm like, something's not right here. The recommendation from the third party for this year was gonna be 10%. So I immediately said, stop. Last year alone should have been 15%. This year, the second quarter of this year was $2.3 million higher than the second quarter of the year before, which was already $500,000 higher than the year before that. So if you look at trends, which is what I look at, they're way out of whack. And to your point, I don't know who was looking at them. Obviously, not the right people, or they didn't understand what they were looking at. So when I immediately saw that, I said, not only last year, your recommendation was wrong, but this year, your recommendation's wrong. I need to know why. So originally, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off a little bit, but I'm going to kind of get you where we got there. Originally, I was thinking we weren't getting the right discount because they said their claims were less than what we were showing. So I originally thought maybe Harvard Pilgrim, Tufts, when they did the merger, we weren't getting our discount. They kept saying, that's possible, we'll look into it, that's possible, we'll look into it. So they dragged this on almost a month, if not 5 weeks. So I kept going through our numbers. Are we recording our discount for RX? Yes. Are we getting our revenues? Yes. Are we paying the admin fees correctly? Yeah. You know, there's a lot of lines here, so I'm just spending a lot of time. And then on April 11th, they call me and say, Brian, we agree. We doubled the discount, because I'm like, you're doubling something, you're missing the discount. At first they said we weren't the discount we weren't accounting for. So they were doubling the discount for $2 million for the past 2 years at least. They weren't getting $2 million of claims reported from Harvard Pilgrim to them for the past 2 years. But to your point, when they see what we're reporting and what they see, bells and whistles should have been going off.
And this is the administrator that we pay
This is
for.
the administrator, correct.
Do they get a flat rate, or do they get a percentage of?
They get a percentage of our plans for life insurance and whatnot, and stop loss. So stop loss is anything over $150,000, unless it's earmarked to cover up large claims. So we're looking to change how we're structured going forward. So we're looking to change how we're structured for the administrator. We're looking to change how we're structured for health insurance, and we're going to put everything out to bid for next year. So unfortunately, I can't do anything about that now. Right. But I can tell you going forward, we do have a plan, and we're going to attack it. And on top of that, the premiums are going up 25% to cover some of this, on top of what I'm asking here. I don't know if that answered your question, but there's a lot of eyes looking at it, but people weren't looking at the right numbers.
Definitely not blaming you, Brian, and I want to thank you for catching this, because next year we'd be looking at $8 million in the hole.
So to that point, if I didn't catch it, you would have lost, you're going to lose over $6 million probably this year. If they had set the rate at 10% like they were planning on, next year you would have lost 7 or 8 million. This would be belly up, and the state would probably tell you you're not going to set your tax rate until you figure it out.
Correct.
So now you have a real problem. Yeah, so again, I think, Diane and I kind of laugh at it, the mayor and I laugh a little, not laughing at the problem, but laughing at my timing couldn't have gotten better. I mean, I wish I'd been here 2 months earlier, but if I would started in July 1st and you had already set the rate, we would be in real trouble.
Yeah, and that's a reflection of many years ago, having the tax rate set and then deciding on getting the tax bills mailed out on time and going forward. Now, another question that I would have, Brian, is under this kind of plan, I know it's not like the stock market, is there something you can put in as a benchmark of when it goes below a certain amount that the bells and whistles go, like if you're selling a stock short or something like that, there's a watermark that would...
Sure, so there's 2 ways to look at it. I'll answer that in a second, let me get to the first part. So Council Vital's issue is, if I see claims going up 10% and we increase premiums 10%, I know I'm in line. If I went up 10% and claims are going up 20 and 30%, I know I have a problem. So an easy check. Right. So, that's kind of that part of it. Second part, so your question,
Oh,
this bells and
just that
whistles.
if there's something, you can put an automatic benchmark in there, just like if you're reviewing a stock and you want to buy it, you want to sell it, and you have a benchmark of the price.
Sure. How we've always looked at it here for self-insured, and I've dealt with self-insured in Fitchburg in here, you want IBNR, which is incurred but not reported. At the end of the year, if people have gone to use the health care, and then on June 30th, it stops. The bills that come in after is incurred but not reported IBNR. The law says you have to cover that in your trust fund. That's probably going to be $2.5 to $3 million. We've always taken that, also covered 3 months of payments. So roughly that's another $3 million there. We've always covered the 3 months of admin fees. There's another $1 million or so. So right now, that trust fund with the claims that they're reporting should be around $9 million. And like I said, if it's not there, and that's why I'm requesting this transfer. And I think as we kind of get out of it with the premiums 25, if we change our insurance or look at other carriers that might have better discounts for us, and that helps us, we can get back to where we need to be. But right now, it's not in that position.
Okay. No, that answers my question. I was wondering where that benchmark would be. Thank you, Brian.
So again, you might have someone here in my spot saying, oh, we're covering IBNR, it's fine, it's healthy.
Yeah.
No, you're at the bare minimum. It's not healthy.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Roby.
I've already asked a question, but I know the city's always been self-insured, and I know not many, but there were other communities that were self-insured that went to the GIC. So at what point do we as a city look at whether staying self-insured is viable, or whether, even though I think GIC went up 10, I don't know if employees heard that comment of 25% increase on the premiums?
Yeah, a letter's going out.
Is a little scary for people that thinking, okay, I'm going to get a 3% salary increase. I'm going to get hit with a 25% cost increase on my insurance. So is there a time, when is the time to start looking at other options?
Sure. So we'll go out July or August for the admin portion of it. Right after that, then we go out for the health insurance portion of it. I would consider a premium product at this point in time. I'm not recommending it by any means, but I think it's something we should at least have a look at. The problem you have with the premium-based products are you're subject now to the market. So if the market goes up 25, you're taking 25. The advantage of self-insured, if they're run right and you have your trust fund established, you can withstand the peaks and valleys a little bit, and you don't have the highs adjustments. Unfortunately, this wasn't monitored for a couple of years now, and it goes quick. I mean, these are big numbers. I mean, you're looking at a $30 million expense line item. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Just a quick follow-up on that, too. I know with the GIC, that also has to come probably during negotiation time with the unions. I think many years ago that was kind of floated around, but I might be a discussion for another evening. But I am happy that you are looking at other options. But thank you, Councilor Roby, because that was a valid point of bringing that up about the GIC. With that, I'll go to Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for bringing up the GIC. That was the last question I had. It was front of mind for me because open season for the GIC closes today, so I was, busily, at the 11th hour scrambling to make sure that my health care and everything. It is not a cheap product, but I will say, and it certainly has its increases, but I'm glad that it's something that you guys are at least looking for because it does provide a decent amount of choice, but it is not cheap. But I think as we're here to discuss, no healthcare is cheap anywhere in this market. I was watching the recap from when this happened in 2003, and then Councilor Bridget was talking about how cost is insane on healthcare, and it's like, well, nothing's changed, everything's just gotten worse. So I appreciate that. I'm going to ask some questions under the guise of veiling my own ignorance and saying that I want to ask questions for people at home about how some of this works. So outside of the kind of oversight that may have been lacking on these particular accounts. And I will echo the choir of thanks for your diligence when you come in. we have a contract with a third-party administrator that is designed to help us through this process. Is that correct?
Correct. They're designed
In
to
theory.
help us with setting rates.
Setting rates. Okay, so they're setting rates. And then and they are also, this contract, is that also helping with the claims that are coming from Harvard Pilgrim? I'm trying to understand.
That's a separate contract.
So that's another contract.
That's a contract that we deal with Harvard, and they will not tell us exactly what their discounts are.
Okay.
So,
But they told us that they lost $2 million in claims.
so the third party saying Harvard wasn't sending them all the information. So they weren't getting $2 million of claims information they should have been getting.
Got it. And yet we are obviously still responsible, because even if a bill gets lost in the mail, it's still your bill, you're just responsible for paying it.
Correct. We pay every week.
Okay. And these contracts expire, I know you said you're looking to go out to bid. When do these contracts
So
expire?
they expire June of next year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That answers your question, Councilman?
Thanks.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I might have missed this at the beginning, but how much money is in free cash right now?
So free cash, I know we have some transfers in front of you, but right now, before any of the transfers, it's 13.1 million.
Okay, so 4.1 is, almost 4.2 is a big chunk of that.
Correct.
Okay.
And we still have some things coming down, too.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Just as far as whack goes, that's a big one. So, yeah, okay. Thank you for the clarification. So it's a tough thing to swallow.
It's not a good day.
Councilor Vital.
I almost made 2 years without getting angry from my desk, but this one issue is kind of getting on my back of my neck. It's a $4,000 mistake, and we just kind of say, well, no, that's not a big deal, we'll just take it out of free cash. But it's not free cash. That's money that's supposed to go to our residents in some manner, shape, or form, in a new police car or a new park or something, not to make up for a mistake. Not to make up for a mistake of many people, not just one or two, but many people.
Through the chair, I'm not taking this lightly at all. And if that's the impression that it's coming across, that's going to be further from the truth. We settled a litigation with Northborough for $8 million that I was happy to do that to utilize a lot of funds for the residents of this city, and now a good chunk of that is now being taken up because of this. I feel the pain that you have, and it has not been a very good month. It's very deflating and defeating to have to do this, but unfortunately it's a situation that I can't control. We have to pay it, move forward, correct the mistakes, and move on. I obviously had a little bit more time to process that because of the scenario and when I was told about this, so it is very grim, and I take your sentiments with concern and with care, and I respect and I hear that, because it is a disservice to the residents.
Now, Brian, this is the first time I get a chance to meet you, and impressed the hell out of me so far, so thank you for everything you're doing. But life changes and so forth, and how do I know 6 years down the road, 2 years after you've left your position, that we're right back into this place? What can you guys guarantee me that was supposed to be guaranteed back in 2003? How can you guarantee this chamber that this is not going to happen again?
Sure, and through the chair, if I may answer, so it's regarding what I've been preaching regarding a succession plan and hiring qualified people, that we are actually paying competitive, fair wages so we can attract qualified individuals. The previous controller does not work here anymore. Again, I'm not trying to pass blame, but there's a reason why the previous comptroller is not here any longer. Thankfully, we're able to recruit a very highly skilled individual that understands municipal government, understands the healthcare trust, and very fortunate to attract qualified candidates who are willing to step up to the plate to work for the city. So what I can assure you, I cannot unfortunately guarantee any type of guarantee that this won't happen again. What I can guarantee is to start looking at qualified individuals that work for the city to make sure that we are paying competitive.
And Mr. Mayor, can we not have all of our checks and balances with somebody outside of the city, like an advisor? Or because obviously the advisors that we have hired in the past have not been top advisors, can we have, multiple checks here within the city and have the advisors out there so that these mistakes don't happen, or are less likely to happen?
Sure, and that's what we'll be working on in the future to come. Absolutely. I mean, my goal as mayor is to set up this city for success, not only for today, but for 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And that's why the succession plan is so important. That's why to set up policies and procedures, so when the next administration does come in, or the next comptroller or auditor comes in, they can pick up where everything is left off. Unfortunately, we didn't have that luxury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Votto. Council Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I see this outstanding amount as something that should have been paid on a regular basis before now. And if it was being paid the way it should have been paid, then free cash would have been less anyway, because we would have paid it more. What I am appreciating here is I haven't seen any flags of penalties or anything else coming out of this. In other words, a mistake has happened, but we are not fined, penaltied, or anything else according to this. So we're able to correct it without any secondary costs to this. And I think that's important to recognize as well. This is a huge number to suddenly fall down, and, but understanding that this is also something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Doucette. Thank you. Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My feeling is, everything that's been said tonight, and I think everybody in the room recognizes what a large number this is, and absolutely appreciates that you located this when you did, so that we can make it right. And just in the letter that you wrote, I feel like you outlined what the issue is, how we got to that issue, what we owe, like how it's represented, and then you say moving forward we'll be addressing the issue. And I feel like your reputation precedes you, and I 100% believe that you're going to put into action some things that will prevent this from happening. And from what Mayor Christian had also said, the succession planning, and just making sure that we have quality people such as yourself in place to, train the people under you, so that there will always kind of be that flow. And hopefully we don't come into a situation where it's always a brand new hire, someone who has no idea what the history of it was, or all of that. So I'm just going to be optimistic and hopeful that between, what you found, what you said is going to happen moving forward, the succession planning, and just always having the future in mind. Yes, we have to eat this, and like you said, just accept that this has happened. It is awful, but going forward, doing whatever we can to make sure it doesn't happen again. So with that, I will move to approve the transfer of $4,187,233 from free cash to the Health Trust Fund to cover the deficit.
Motion's been made. I will second that, to approve a transfer request in the amount of $4,187,233 from free cash to the Healthcare Trust Fund to cover a projected deficit. Also would like to include with the finance team a suspension as well. Motion was made and seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to cover a couple things that I heard, just so that councilors have things in perspective. Talking with Councilor Preciado today, he was very, strongly in favor of making sure we set something up to help prevent this from happening again. And I go back to 2003 when it happened then under a little different circumstances, and we thought the answer was the independent advisory group to be looking over the shoulder and to see what's happened. Obviously, that didn't work out as good as we had hoped, all right? The free cash comment, so we have 13 million, but we've got 4 going to pay this down, the Health Trust Fund. We've got $500,000 going to the ban, and we got 4 million before us to take up for capital stuff. So it's going to leave us about 4 million left. There's a snow and ice transfer, about 1.5 million that's going to be coming our way. So we're looking around $2 million to end the year, plus or minus whatever year-end transfers the administration may be coming before the council. I think it's important the councilors understand the rate history, because actually, I'll start by saying, Brian, thank God you're here. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, what you're finding is saving the city's AAA rating, because we've got a fire station and a school that are going to look for an enormous amount of money, and this would have been extremely challenging if this stuff uncovered itself by what I call other means. So thank you, Brian. Though I did not like the discussions that you and I had about it, from rats, how would we find it? I deeply appreciate the work you did to find them. But to discuss rates, so I went back trying to figure out how have we been paying for increases in our health insurance? Well, the health insurance costs saw no change in 2022, no change in 2023, no change in 2024. So the rates that our employees have paid have stayed the same. I don't know if you're on the city's program, I'm not, but I'll tell you my rates have not stayed the same over those years. In 2025, they went up 5%, and now they're going to go up 25% for 2026. If I look at what we should have been doing in adjusting those rates at a 5 to 6% increase all along, we'd be at the exact same spot. The problem is we got accustomed to no increase in our health insurance, and now we're playing catch up, all right? So not a good spot to be in, but it's just math. It works. I challenged Brian, saying, Brian, what should we be looking at? And Brian was very good. That's not the council's job. That stops in his office to be looking at what the trust fund, because if we're going to sit there and be trust fund managers, then why be on the council? I mean, what level do we have to look at the rate? So I said, well, what should I be asking? When I talk intelligently on trust fund, what should I say? He says, you always should see a balance of around $10 million, $9 to $10 million to cover anticipated costs. Okay, that's good. So now I know what to expect when I see a letter come down at budget time, should say, I've got plenty of money close to that target value. Will it increase? Okay, but if he comes back and tells me it's less than $10 million, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be saying, why? Now, this independent insurance advisory group, I'll be candid, I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I don't know what they're doing. What do they look at? I don't see minutes. I don't see an agenda. I don't know. So I'm hoping this group, there's a light bulb that goes on that they would ask the same stuff, and if they're meeting quarterly, they ask for that type of information so that they can see how the trust is performing. And then finally, how to put stuff in place. Brian was kind enough to share with me how things happened before he was here, while he was here, when he left, and now that he's back. And there's got to be a policy, because it's obvious if something's not written down on how to run a trust fund, we're going to make the same mistake again unless we hire a knowledgeable Brian that comes in here that knows how to run a trust fund or knows what to look for in a trust fund. I mean, 2 weeks and he's already found this stuff. I'm nervous for what the next 2 weeks are going to bring, Brian. But that should be something we think about as well, because that's going to be important to help prevent, because what we said it in 2003. I don't want to be here again saying we got a trust fund deficit. Well, that worked for 20 years. Yeah, well, we're here again. So we don't want it to happen again. And I believe with what we know now, we'll be in a position, well, I can tell you in 20 years, if it happens again, I won't be on the council. So you guys will have a problem on your hands. But having the process in place so that Comptroller A leaves, Comptroller B comes, it's just like our financial program. We got our finance policies that say how we handle how money's coming in. Well, let's amend it to say what we need to look for in the trust fund. I mean, this isn't hard. and I believe we can do it. So, Mr. Chairman, though I'm not a voting member on finance, I do support the motion to approve that transfer with the suspension. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate
Chair.
that, Mr. President, thank you. Councilor Violet.
Before I go to the vote, I'd like this body to receive for lack of a better term, I'm a military guy, standard operating procedures or some process or some recommendation or some plan going forward that's going to, in writing to this body, that's going to ensure that this doesn't happen again. What's the role of the advisory council? How do they get elected? How long are their terms? What do they look for? All that belongs in some type of document. Because I don't want to be like this in 5 years from now, saying, well, it was that person's fault or that person's fault. If we have a procedure in place, a standard operating procedures of how we're going to do, how we're going to manage this account, we're less likely to make this mistake again. So I'd suggest that, Mr. Mayor, that you would put together that type of prep plan with the help of the controller, the advisor, whoever you want to get on how we're going to keep this from going forward.
Good suggestion, Councilor Buck. And I'll leave that up certainly to the mayor. I know in the beginning, I think you had to have a union member and somebody, I'll let the mayor, maybe his team can write something up for us. All right, motion has been made and seconded to approve the transfer. All in favor? Any opposed? It carries 4-0. I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Move to adjourn.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? It carries 4-0. We are adjourned at 6:41 p.m. Thank you.
Evening, I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. It is May 1st, 6:45 for a start. And we have two items on our agenda. The first item is order number 25-100-9378, referencing order number 21-100-8214C, application for a special permit from Green Meadow Farms LLC to allow for the sale of medical marijuana in addition to the existing sale of adult-use marijuana at a facility under construction at 239 Boston Post Road West. I believe we have Mr. Zawacki, who is the CEO, in the audience, if he would like to come sit in the well, if you have any opening comments. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through the comments from the engineers or the department heads and then go through the special permit.
Sure. Chris Zawacki, CEO of Green Meadows Farm. Thank you so much for having me back. Just opening statement, we have been approved for adult use sales in the city and looking to add medical. We have two other stores in the state, both of which are adult use and medical, and it's, I can certainly get more detail if you'd like, but it's adding the medical component is extremely important to our family-owned business.
Thank you. All right, so we did receive comments from the department heads. We got from Commissioner Tway from the Building Department, Tom DePercio from City Engineer, Priscilla Ryder from Conservation, and Mr. Dunwoody from the Board of Health, that they really all had no comments specific to this. Chief Breen from the Fire Department also had no comments, and Chief Georgie from the Police had stated, "I've reviewed the special permit application and do not have any issues. I did meet with Mr. Zawacki last week, toured the facility, and discussed his security plans, as well as our experiences with the opening of other dispensaries in the city. With respect to hiring police details for the opening, I did advise that I would follow up with him as his opening draws closer. The traffic flow and parking area for this facility should not be an issue for other businesses in the area." So we do have the draft decision on the amendment to the special permit. Some of this I'm going to skip over because I'll get to the details as we get into the actual conditions themselves, but it is the finding of facts. The applicant is a duly organized and existing limited liability company having a business address at 64 Mill Street, Southbridge. The applicant is a tenant at a retail unit located at 239 Boston Post Road, West Marlborough, Massachusetts. On May 24, 2025, the City Council of the City of Marlborough voted to grant a transfer of the original special permit authorizing the applicant to build and operate an adult-use marijuana retail establishment at the site. Number 4, I am actually not sure if we need this. It reads, on date XYZ, the City Council of the City of Marlborough voted to grant an amended special permit, authorizing expanded use at the site in accordance with Article 6, Section 25, Section 650-17, Section 650-18, and Section 650-18, 45 and 46, and Section 650-32. On February 26, 2025, the applicant filed with the city clerk an application to amend the special permit to authorize the addition of medical marijuana sales to adult-use marijuana. In connection with the applicant submitted a certified list of the abutters filing fees attached as Attachment 1. The applicant was certified as complete by the building commissioner, acting on behalf of the city planner. And pursuant to the rules and regulations of the City Council established a date for a public hearing, advertised it, and determined that notice of the same was provided to abutters. The Marlborough City Council, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, opened a public hearing on the application on Monday, March 24th. The public hearing was held and the hearing was closed on March 24th. Number 10 is the applicant presented testimony at the public hearing detailing the use at the site, describing its impact upon municipal services, the neighborhood, and traffic. Number 11, at the public hearing, no members of the public spoke in favor of the use, and no members of the public spoke in opposition to the use at the site. So based on the above, the City Council makes the following findings and takes the following actions. A, just says we've the applicant has complied with the rules and regulations. B, the city council finds the proposed use at the site is an appropriate use and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. C, the city council finds that the site is located in the portion of the business district along Massachusetts State Highway 20 from the Northborough Town Line to Interstate Route 495 with frontage on Route 20 in accordance with the bylaws. And D, in accordance with Section 650-32C of the zoning ordinance, the city council hereby determines that any adverse effects of the use at the site will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the city or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to the site based upon consideration of the following, which I'm going to just skim over very quickly. It's the social, economic, and community needs, traffic flow and safety, adequacy of utilities and public services, neighborhood character and social structure, impacts on the natural environment, potential fiscal impact, hours of operation, requiring that contact information be provided to the chief of police, the building commissioner, and the special permit granting authority, and requiring payment of a community impact fee if permitted by law, requiring the submission of a special permit granting authority of the same annual reports that must be provided to the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, requiring regular inspections by city officials, requiring employees to undergo a criminal background check, requiring surveillance cameras, and prohibiting the sale of any other materials. The ability for the business to provide a secure indoor waiting area, provide an adequate and secure pickup drop-off, provide adequate security measures to ensure no individual will pose a direct threat to the health or safety of other individuals, adequately address issues of traffic demand, parking and queuing, and provide opaque exterior windows. And then in the subject to the following conditions, a lot of that is reviewed again with those more specificity. Number one, compliance with applicable laws. The applicant agrees to comply with all municipal, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances as they may apply to the maintenance and operation of the use of the site. Number two, a site plan review. The use of the site is further subject to site plan review in accordance with the City of Marlborough Site Plan Review Ordinance prior to the issuance of the building permit as required by Section 650-32E. 3, incorporation of submissions, all plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as part of the application and as amend or revised during the application hearing process before the City Council or the City Council's Urban Affairs Committee are herein incorporated and become a part of the special permit unless otherwise altered by the City Council. Number 4 is compliance with state requirements. In accordance with Section 650-1845C and 650-1846C, the use at the site shall comply with all statutes and regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the licensure and operation of a medical marijuana treatment center. Number 5, transition from original use to new use until such time as the applicant commences medical marijuana sale at the site. The original special permit shall continue to govern the use at the site. Once the applicant commences medical marijuana sales at the site, this decision shall exclusively govern the use. Number 6, security. A, at the site, the applicant shall maintain a secure entrance lobby waiting area, providing a physical separation between the exterior door of the unit and interior areas of the unit where marijuana and marijuana-infused products are dispensed and sold, with security personnel available during operating hours to screen individuals arriving at the unit to ensure that interior areas of the unit are only accessible to qualified patients, caregivers, and to ensure that no individuals pose a direct threat to the health or safety of others. B, the applicant shall maintain a secure pickup drop-off area for patients and products at the site. C, the use at the site shall have opaque exterior windows. D, the applicant shall maintain adequate staffing so that patients may make purchases in an efficient manner to avoid queuing and impacts on neighboring uses at the site. E, the applicant shall maintain surveillance cameras capable of 24-hour video recording, archiving recordings, and the ability to immediately produce images in, on, around, or at the use at the site. Number 7, processing and odors. There shall be no processing or manufacturing of marijuana or marijuana-infused products as part of the use at the site. Marijuana and marijuana products shall be prepackaged and sealed prior to arriving at the site. Any odors associated with marijuana and marijuana-infused products shall be limited to the interior of the unit. There shall be no on-site consumption or use of marijuana or marijuana-infused products associated with the use at the site. Number 8, hours. The maximum hours of operation of the use at the site shall be Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I will note, I believe this is an increase of the hours from the special permit we gave to Cal Verde, which was 9 to 10 and 10 to 8. So just to note that.
Madam Chair, does that match the hours of the special permit that we just approved
And that's what
recently?
I only looked up Cal Verde because I couldn't find the other one, so it might be that there is no change.
I'm sorry, I meant the one that we just approved
Garden
for
remedies.
Garden Remedies. Thank you.
I don't remember what we did, but I think at this point, everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
There, I'm just,
So I
this is
just,
a change and it matches one that's down the street.
I
just
can,
wanted to.
or Counselor Ossing may be quickly looking because he likes to do that.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Doucette.
Thank you. We've had this discussion going back and forth, and I think the hours should be very similar to liquor stores. Whatever the standard hours are for liquor stores should be for dispensaries as a general rule. Whatever they may be, please understand that.
Yeah, and I don't know that there even are standards for liquor stores. They're kind of whatever they want them to be, but, and I'm sure that they can, but anyway, I just quickly looked and it seemed like this was a change. If I'm wrong. Counselor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at the one that we just did, moving Garden Remedies to the west side of town, and item 10 hours, the maximum hours of operation for the new site shall be Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m.
So they would be the same.
They're the same, yep.
All right, number 9 is contact information. The applicant shall provide current contact information of management and staff to the chief of police, the building commissioner, and the city council. Number 10, annual reports. The applicant shall submit to the city council the same annual reports that must be provided to the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. 11, inspections and records. The applicant shall make the use available for regular inspections by city officials or their agents, and shall provide city officials or their agents with access to the same records which are applicable for inspections to the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. Number 12, background checks. The applicant shall require that employees undergo a criminal background check, including but not limited to Corey, and an additional background check by the chief of police, who shall have the authority to disapprove the employment of any persons as a result of said background check. 13, unrelated materials. The applicant shall not make available for sale as part of the use at the site any materials or items unrelated to the sale of marijuana, including without limitation tobacco products, cloves, cigarettes, or e-cigarettes. 14, police detail. The applicant shall employ a City of Marlborough police detail at the site unless the chief of police determines in a letter filed with the city council that a police detail is not necessary at certain times during the operation of the use. In the event a City of Marlborough police detail is not available, when required, the applicant shall obtain a private detail. Number 15 is our standard recording of the decision, where this has to be filed with the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds after the city clerk has certified. So that is a quick reading through, basically adding medical marijuana to the existing. Is there any questions, comments from the members of Urban? Councilor Doucette.
I don't see any significant issues with this. I mean, it's a party change from who the dispensary was to the new business. The construction's almost completed, so How quickly do you expect to open, assuming that this gets approved?
90 to 120 days.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Councilor Fricillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to Councilor Doucette, no questions or concerns. I think adding medical marijuana to the facility really, to me, doesn't change much, considering you have the adult use. So I'm in full support of this and in full support of this amendment to the special permit. Thank you.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Madam Chair.
Councilor Navin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. I'm supportive of the adding medical. I think that is a smart business practice and will be able to help additional people. So I'm glad you're doing that. And with that, I will make a motion to approve.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the application to amend to allow for the sale of medical marijuana to the construction at 239 Boston Post Road, which seems to be going pretty smoothly. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. We are missing Councilor Preciado, who I did talk to briefly, and he also was in support of this, but obviously can't be here to actually vote on it, but didn't have any issues. So thank you very much. I can ask for a suspension on Monday if there's a sense that there's a need to, or it can lay on the table. I can report this out on Monday, can lay on the table for our, but actually I could suspend to get it referred to the solicitor, and then it would be on the next agenda in final form for a vote. So we can move the process along. So a little bit longer, and I think there's full support from the council that we'll finish this up.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
And our second item on the agenda is order number 25-109-330A, a proposed zoning map amendment from Raimundo Neto, owner of 36 Jefferson Street, to rezone 36 Jefferson Street, identified as map 56, parcel 153, from residence B to neighborhood business. And I believe we have his legal attorney here. If you would like to introduce yourself again, and we can, if you have any comments, we'll begin.
All right. Thank you so much to the committee for having me here. My name is James McMahon. I'm counsel for Mr. Neto. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend tonight. He had to attend to a family matter back in Brazil, but does express his wish to be here as well. As was explained, we are seeking a rezoning of the parcel on Jefferson Street. The intent would be to develop a multi-unit housing complex there. It would be 11 condo units. We have reduced it in size based off feedback from the neighbors. About a 55% reduction in the overall size of the project. What we're really looking for is the ability to build under the NB zoning code, and if permitted to move to the NB zoning code, which does abut this parcel on two sides. Every part of the project would be in full conformance with that code. However, given the restrictions in the current RB zoning, it would not allow a use of the property. We did try to explore alternatives to this, including acquiring some land from the city to allow an A&R and moving ahead on other avenues that would not necessitate this rezoning. We were not successful in that, so that is what we're hoping to do. We gave a presentation at the council meeting explaining the project. I don't think we need to run through all of that, and we've submitted some more materials, especially explaining as we view our best conformance with the design standard guidelines that the city has put out. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have regarding the project, and appreciate your consideration of it.
All right, so typical for rezoning, this was also referred to the planning board. They also held a public hearing, and they had a meeting where they have sent us a recommendation. So Council President Michael Ossing regarding Council Order 24-109-330, proposed zoning amendment, zoning map amendment, section 650, parcel of land located at 36 Jefferson Street, identified as map 56, parcel 153. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, at its regularly scheduled meeting on April 28, 2025, the board took the following action regarding the above referenced council order. On a motion by Mr. LaVenture, seconded by Dr. Finby, the board voted to send a negative recommendation to the City Council on the above referenced proposed zoning amendment. The motion carried 5-0 on a roll call vote. The board focused on the proposed zoning amendment and not the developer's preliminary concept on how the parcel would be developed, and provided the following reasons in reaching its recommendation. The consensus of the board was that the proposed development shown by the proponent is in keeping with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. However, the board had concerns because the neighborhood business district code would allow for higher density and uses that would not be in keeping with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. In the planning board's opinion, the proposed zoning change and associated uses would negatively impact the neighbors, and argued the parcel is currently zoned with an allowable use of multifamily developments. In the planning board's opinion, the developer did not establish that the proposed zoning amendment would provide a use not found elsewhere. However, the board agreed the city would benefit from additional housing, but expressed the need for low to moderate income housing. And finally, the board concluded without a comprehensive understanding on why this parcel was excluded from the original neighborhood business district zoning change, and the fact that a deed restriction would be required to prevent certain density and uses, the proposed zoning change would not be in keeping with the intent and purposes of the city's zoning ordinance. Sincerely, Sean N. Fay, Chairperson. So I'm going to open this up for questions, comments from the Urban Affairs Committee. First, Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate that. I do echo a lot of the concerns that the planning board shared in their letter. And quite frankly, this is kind of the position I often take when we get into zoning. We hear a lot about when we go into these projects and from developers or proposed projects, and they often require a zoning change first. In my 6 short years here, we have had a couple of different instances where after zoning has been changed or where zoning allowed something that still required a special permit from this body, we find ourselves in a position where we end up litigating a denial because even though this council chose not to issue a special permit, the land court disagrees. And so we've ended up having projects that perhaps we don't want or perhaps we aren't able to shape as well. It has taught me that our opportunity to enforce what we hope to see really comes during the zoning. And it often says that, you know, this isn't the project, this is the zoning that we're talking about. And it is, and I appreciate the design that's been done. I personally think the proposed project is actually a little bit too big for the neighborhood. I share the planning board's thoughts that we do need additional housing. I think this particular area of the city has seen quite a growth of housing, and we'll see it as they come online, as the units come online at the corner of Lincoln and Mechanic and at Cashman and Lincoln as well. So I have a concern with approving a zoning change that could, quite frankly, as people have highlighted, the development could be sold. It would be within the owner's right to sell it, and that parcel would become a heck of a lot more desirable and a lot more lucrative to sell to a developer that may choose to build it out to its maximum capacity. So those are the thoughts that keep me there. I know that other people want to make comments, but I am happy to make the motion at some point if you want me to just do it, and then you can continue discussion, but I would motion to deny the zoning change.
All right, we have a motion. We can continue discussion. Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I also do not agree with the zoning change for this. You know, the zoning change is one thing. You can't talk about the project because the zoning gives you a different layout to do whatever you want. You could sell it the next day and someone else can develop it. We can't stop that, okay? On the other hand, if you come up with a special permit, that's hard negotiation that we can work with, okay? So I would rather see something coming through for that particular property as a special permit versus a zoning change. And I think that that's where we are right now. So I would also agree with Councilor Neighbor as far as denying the zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fricillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do agree with my fellow councilors. I'm not in support of this zoning change. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you, Attorney McMahon, for giving this fact sheet, especially about the project itself. But the reality is, like we've talked about, we have a zoning change before us, not the actual physical project. And so, for that reason, I share in those concerns. If an ownership change were to happen, knowing that residents have already said that the original scope of the project was too big, if some kind of ownership change did happen, and expecting something even larger was very concerning to me, and I know very concerning to the other councilors. So I will also not be in support, and I'll be in support of a denial tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I didn't get a chance to respond to the last comment on the planning board's letter where they're without a comprehensive understanding on why this was excluded. And I didn't go back and double check, but I believe when this area of the city was sent to us for rezoning, that the mayor had actually submitted that parcel to become neighborhood business. However, when it hit the council and urban affairs, we determined if we made it neighborhood business, it would become, it was currently commercial automotive, which meant that it was legally non-conforming. It would remain legally non-conforming because you can't have a single-family house in neighborhood business. So we changed it to RB, which made the house legal, not neighborhood business. So I believe that was the rationale for what we did when the zoning was changed. And that would still be my rationale for not changing the zoning today, even though the contention is that the house would be gone. I think that we need to keep it where it is. And I will quickly read, Councilor Preciado was not able to come, but he wanted to have his thoughts at least put out there for the public. Madam Chair, fellow committee members, as we've moved along this process from the petitioner, my stance on the matter has remained the same. With the intention of rezoning and developing, I have considered the proposal, the location, and the longstanding effect it may have on the neighborhood. I do not support this zoning change, as I did not support the zoning change for the property on Maple Terrace a few weeks ago. Reasoning for the Maple Terrace decision and 36 Jefferson properties share similarities with regards to neighborhood cohesion and future protections. For example, potential high-density builds. A few standout reasons coincide with the planning board's ultimate negative recommendation, including concerns about population density. Should the owner choose to sell the property, new developer would have freedom to build out. Does not keep with the surrounding neighborhood aesthetic, and detracts from the rail trail green space by allowing large build-out. For these reasons, I cannot support the zoning change. Thank you, Robert Preciado, Ward 3 City Councilor. And I can open it up to any other members that are here if they have questions, comments, concerns. Hearing none, then there is a motion that's been made and seconded to deny. And hearing no further comments or questions from the committee members, I will call the vote. So motion is to deny. If you are in favor of denying, you would vote yes. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed is nobody. And so the motion follows the recommendation to deny this. Again, this has to be reported out to the full committee, which will happen on Monday, and then this would lay on the table for a vote of the full council the following meeting.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming and all the work that you've done, and Mr. Neto for presenting.
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? And we are adjourned at 7:15.